Alright, I picked up a bunch of rackets today from the university. I kind of figured I'd show y'all what I go through when I string a complete racket. When you cut the strings out, I know most people, if you read the USRSA and look online, people tell you, slip them one. They're going to have you go through this long pattern. If you're just stringing for yourself or a couple of people, or just 1-2 racks at a time, that's fine. Me personally, like I have 6 here today. I've had 20, 30, 40 rackets. I've had more than that. That's just very time consuming. I just start in the bottom and cut up and start here and go across. When you take the strings out, you kind of get them all unwoven. Push them up out of the grommet. And start grabbing them, pulling them out. Doing that, you can grab several at a time. And for some reason, not real sure why, I have a lot of people get confused. Like when they get to the knot, obviously the simple knot, they can push the string up here and just pull it out. But when they get to this double knot, for some reason people always get confused. They don't know how to pull it out. All I do, obviously, just pull these strings out, take the pliers, grab the knot, and just pull the knot off. Then you can just push the string out and pull it out. So anyway, we're going to start with this. I'm going to have them lined up by tension so I don't have to keep going back and forth on my tension. This one's at 48. I got it set at 48. When I mount, I think I've told y'all before, always mount with the butt cap up. I also put labels in the rackets. I don't know if you can see that. I also mount the label in the throat so that when you mount the racket, the label should be up so you can read it. There's times I'll get rackets from other places that'll have labels in them, and they'll be upside down, and I don't know. I just think it makes it a lot easier if you mount the racket correctly, or the way I do it anyway. Label's always up so you can read it. And she uses RPM Blast, which is and I just measure string. Just grab it and do a wingspan. What I suggest, if you want to get to the point you can do this, like for the crosses, I know the crosses are only going to use about yay much string. I can cut that off. I'll measure out the mains, twist down here. What you can do is take a piece of string and get like a set, just cut a set in half, get a known length of string. Like the mains, I know we're going to full 3/1 string. But you can get like, say, 20 foot of string. Just get 20 foot of string and just grab the end of it and measure it and see how long it is. And that's half a racket roughly. And after you've done enough of them, you'll get a little experience and you'll know which rackets use a little bit more, a little bit less. When I put the string in, I see guys all the time, they'll put 1/2 in, they'll feed it across here and they'll pull some of it, and then they'll come back and they'll search for the end. If you split it in half, you already got both ends in your hand. So go ahead, just stick them both in. Bring them both across. You still got the ends together, just pull them through. All you gotta do. Probably have to adjust my clamps a little bit tight. Try to use your starting clamp as a backup just in case. And your clamps, when you adjust your clamps, you don't want them to crush the string, but you don't want the string to slip. And it's really kind of a feel thing. With experience, you'll kind of learn. Right here, if you're putting too much pressure on here, you're probably crushing your string. So that really probably looks snug. You want it to be easy, but you don't want the string to slip either. With the poly, I mean, there have been several times I've cut strings out of a racket, and you can see the indentions in the string from whoever strung it last, where they had the clamp so tight they're crushing the string. Okay, I did 3. I always do 3 per side. These last 2, I just go ahead and feed them in here just so I kind of get them out of my way. And over here, when I say 3 per side, I do multiples of 3. So that one I did 3, so this one I'll do 6. Last about week, I've been struggling a little bit stringing rackets. I did a tournament a few weeks ago, and when I was done, the calluses on my fingertips were so thick I don't have any feel right now. I'm having a hard time when I weave the string. Oh, something I was going to show you. When you're feeding these strings in the throat, if you're pulling this way, like this string, it's good because it's kind of out of the way, and I don't use the Diablo a lot for the poly strings. I'll use it on the multi-filament, natural cut, stuff like that. Poly strings, I typically don't use the Diablo, especially if I have a lot of rackets, because it saves a little time. But when you're doing the ones in the throat, if you're going to use it, push the racket handle past the tension head, then you can string it in there, or feed it, then you can pull, and that kind of gives you a little room here to work. If you don't, then you're over here trying to do this between the handle and the racket head. A little tip. I'll try to show you on the next one. And how do you always know when you hit your 6? Started in the throat, your last pull will be in the throat. Number 7, again, I'm just going to feed this to get it out of the way. And so over here, obviously, I will do another 6, which will finish out this racket. When I say another 6, I do 3 pulls just to catch up, and then go ahead 3. Never failed on string rackets, my nose itch. And I do knot tension on my machine. I've got it set to where I do 15% increase for my knots. So again, remember I measured my arms, and I've got that much string left over, so you know, that's pretty good. Sometimes I come up a little shorter than that, sometimes. I don't usually get much longer than that, but I get a little shorter than that sometimes. And if it's a racket with 18 mains, I do the same measurement, but add about 1.5 feet. All my knots are Parnell knots. And when you tighten your knots, I see this a lot. People grab these, they'll put their starting clamp on here, and they'll hold the end here to try to do it. What do? They're squeezing here, and they pull it, and they slip off and hit themselves in the face. Don't do that. Put your clamp on there, put the string between a couple of fingers, pull the head. And you're pulling out and up is what you're doing. You get that slack out of your string. And here I just kind of brace my hand, give it a quick little tug, and that's all you have to do. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people tighten knots and smack themselves in the face. So again, you don't hold the handles, put the string between your fingers and pull that away. I like to go down with my clips, my snips. I don't like to leave long tail, and if you go down, it kind of puts a little angle on it. And a perk of always mounting butt cap up, and assuming if somebody's got the butt cap on backwards, I'll fix it for them. Typically the Racket will say whatever the name brand is, not always. Some of them don't. Like did a Yonex the other day, and Yonex is written on the side over here. It's actually upside down, and you can read the what is it? E-zone. The E-zone will be right side up. But a perk, if you always mount it the same way every single time, you'll always string it the same way every single time. So like the E-zone, the Pure Arrow, they're a directional stringing. You know, the grommets are made a certain way, so you have to start them in a certain spot and tie them off in a certain spot. And again, I think I've mentioned before, when I start my strings, like here I skip 2 grommets. So when I start this one, I'm going to go over. If I'd only skipped 1 grommet, I'd have started under. And I'll show you why here in a minute. Give yourself enough to reach. Use starting clamp. Don't set them too deep into the jaws. It'll crush your string. So don't ever go past the little eyelets. Now, that's the first string. The second string is going to start the same way. So that one started over, so this one will start over. That's because you have 2 strings side by side. I know there's a lot of people, they'll go ahead and they'd pull all of this through, and instead of pulling tension on that string directly, that it just pulled tension here. And that's really, it's fine if you want to do that, because I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull this again anyway. So if that's something you want to do, I mean, go ahead and do that. That's just, you know, I've done it enough times the way I do it. Muscle memory kind of takes over, and I just do it always the same. And now on this one, I didn't start over, started under. And now from here until I get to my skip at the bottom, every time I start a string, it'll start under. No matter what side, it'll always start under. And when I finish it on the other side, it'll always finish over. So 1, that's 1 less string that I have to weave under. And 2, if I get to the other side here and my string is under, I know I've got to misweave. You always want to fan your string so you don't get burned. This is RPM Blast. It's pretty easy string to string with. Now, you can tie your knot when you want to tie your knot. The earlier you tie your knot, I know I've got a couple of videos out there where I'm almost to the bottom because I got distracted and forgot. A couple of things here. This one, you don't want to pull your string across your supports. So if I'd let that string come on this side, when I pull tension, it's going to pull that string across the support. So I wanted to make sure it fed on this side of this support. So now I'm going to do my knot. And again, you can tie it whenever you want to. All you have to do is make sure this clamp is opposite of this clamp. So if you were to have this clamp down here, then you pull the knot here. When you release, you're just going to release tension on that string. And you really want to try to do it as soon as possible. And I say that just because that starting clamp, if you leave it on there long enough, it will start creating a weak spot in your string. Again, Parnell knot, and it's a pretty tight little area, but you can still do it. And again, string between the fingers. Start stringing the racket. And like there's some printing here, and something I do every pull is I kind of watch the string in the clamp, make sure it's not going to slip. Because again, like I said, I don't want my clamps adjusted where I'm not crushing the string, but I don't want the string to slip. And as you string rackets, your clamps will start getting a little bit dirty. And so even though you got the same pressure when you're closing, you're not getting the same grip. So like here, there's some printing on there. Well, that's pretty easy to watch. You can just watch to see if the printing comes through the clamp. If you want, you can stick your finger on the string. But just kind of watch it. If it slips, just take that clamp off, re-pull it, and I dropped the end there, and I did that on purpose because it felt like it started to get a twist in my string. And you'll notice when I do mine, I get to here and I leave it like that, and then I pull, and that's just so when I go back to the next side, I've already got the end right here. I don't have to search for it. I know a lot of guys will go ahead and pull this through and just leave enough over here. I mean, if that's what you want to do, and that's fine, nothing against it. I just like it like this because it's just right here, and I don't have to go search for my end, saves a few seconds. My hardest thing slows me down is getting the string in the holes. And I always tell people, especially when I teach them, because especially all the young kids, all they want to do is see how fast they're stringing. I keep telling them, don't worry about how fast you are. Just string the rackets. The more you do, the faster you'll get. But don't sit here and try to see how long it takes you to string a racket. If you're worried about, if you rush, that's when you start making mistakes. And I have a little table brake, a little friction brake, that makes it to where the table just doesn't spin so easy. I used to use it all the time. I still use it every once in a while. But, I don't know, sometimes I just forget, like this time I forgot, so not too worried about it. You also notice when I pull tension, I try to pull the strings up and let them walk down. I don't hold pressure on them. I'll show you here what I'm talking about. You know, some people tell you try to push these up, they'll spread your strings out, make it easier to weave, and that's fine. So again, I don't want to hold them up. If you hold them up, see how that stayed up? There's not much of a gap here. You don't really want to do that. I just try to push them up and let them walk and you know, that's just going to keep doing it. There. That's a little bit better. We'll just pull it straighter. Okay, I'll show you on this next one. Maybe. So again, you don't want to leave them down here because then you get the smiley faces. You don't want to pull them up and hold them up because then you get a reverse smiley face. So you just want to kind of walk itself down. You want to watch when you're pulling your string. As soon as you get it snagged on something, like it gets wrapped around my puller head a lot. I'm trying not to pull too much this way because I don't want to hit the camera. Now when I drop the end and I'm trying to get those twists out, poly, if that's a shaped poly sometimes, especially when you get near the bottom back here, you really got to watch it because when you pull the string it'll sit there and twist up on you. You try not to avoid that natural guts real bad about that too. You really got to make sure you don't have any twist in there. Anyway, the reason like right there, if I'd kept pulling, you pull that, you get a lot of friction burns on your fingers. I strung enough, I'm going to say it was Luxlon Alu Rough at a tournament. Strung a whole bunch of it. And I'll show you here in a second. It gets rough on the fingers after a while, but I'll show you what I did. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, I got all these calluses are starting to peel off. They're so thick. But anyway, when you do your clamps, rotate them to the inside. Don't rotate them outside. You don't want to hit the frames and clamps or supports. Rotate your clamp to the inside. Anyway, I guess it's the other side, but when I pull string, I push with my fingernails. And this hand, I usually use all of them, it's not too big a deal. This hand, for some reason, I have a habit where I only use this one finger. I did so much Alu Rough one time, I went through there and I wore a hole through my fingernail. You don't want to do that, that hurts. I forgot to tape my fingers once too, and at the end of the day, this finger right here, I had it cut all the way down to the bone, pulling string. So you do a bunch of rackets, tape your fingers. And try not to use one fingernail. So like here, I pull, and I only use this fingernail to fan them. And after a while, like I said, started getting hot, started turning black, and then eventually I noticed there was a hole all the way through that fingernail. In fact, I think you can see a little bit of the remainder of it here. This is probably the last one that I can even attempt to weave in this manner. But now, one, I don't have enough string probably to go across and pull and have loops. And, also, I'm getting old, getting arthritis, and I can't push the string through there, so I'll do them up each one at a time now. The way I do it now, And there's some videos online, you can probably see people do this, but take a little loop, push it, with my bottom finger I push it up, then just push the string. I just push that loop up, push the string, that creates a loop I can grab. And part of the key to it, you don't want a whole bunch of string out here to have to try to pull through. 7/8 inches, 9 inches, something like that. Sure don't want a whole bunch. Now, and over here it doesn't matter. You don't want to do crossovers, you know, where you have strings crossing over each other. And on the bottom it doesn't really matter, but to me it's just an aesthetic thing and I don't like it. So this one went under, so I'm going to try to get this one under. And there's a lot to be said for the angle of the cut. So like if it's, I don't know if you can see the angle, you know, it's cut this way. You don't want to try to push it in like that, where the angle's going this way. But then it just hits your string. It's hard to get through. So you want that bevel to be either up or down. I think down. It's something I haven't really even tried yet. But you can also take an awl, and I'll tell you the awls that come with most of the machines, the real long, skinny, really sharp pointed ones, throw those away, get rid of them. Get you something that's a little thicker, and that's not quite so sharp on the tip. That way you don't damage your string. You don't have to put them in quite so deep. But you can make like a little tunnel. It's really helpful when you get to natural gut and some synthetics and stuff. I can tell you I'm already going backwards. And if you ever get one, get your little awl that has a little hook on it. So when you do start over, when you do start backwards like that, you can grab it and pull it up. I don't know why the turntable wouldn't turn. It's stuck on the forehead. I know here in the US, these little awls, usually buy them in a 4-pack. There's like a straight one, a hooked one, there's like a 90-degree angle one, and there's some usually random angled one or something. And when you clamp this, make sure you leave enough room to tie your knot. If the knot's up here, it's not a big deal, or if it's nowhere near your clamp, it's not a big deal, but if your clamp is sitting right by your grommet, make sure you don't put the clamp right next to it and then get frustrated because you struggle with your knot. Take your setting off awl. You can use your fingers if you want to. I just do it like this so it's easier on the fingers. You don't have to hit every hole. Typically you just want to hit one in the top, one or two in the middle, and one at the bottom. And I'm just pulling these over because all your mains are going to be a little crooked. After I do that, check them. It's pretty good. Check crosses. Move down a little bit, that one down a little bit. You can tell which one I was talking about earlier. And there you go. So this is a pure arrow. This one I was talking about earlier. Let's see, tension 53. As you can tell, I've already cut it. Try to cut a lot of them in advance. Try to cut all of them in advance. I just got distracted doing the video. Again, you can grab all these at the same time as that one. Handful of those, all of those. Also have new editing software, so I might try to edit some of this out. So you're not just watching me do nothing. Remember, grab your pliers, grab the tail of the knot, pull it out. Mount butt cap up, or in my case label up so I can read it. She's got a crack, but I know they're going to have me string it anyway. Oh, yep, that's on. Well, they will play them until they break them. Like break them, break them. Okay. So this is a pure arrow, and I was telling you earlier, you have to string it, you have to start your main or your crosses here. You have to tie it off here, which obviously goes this way, but you know, I'll weave this way. Anyway, by doing the butt cap up, every time I mount this racket, and I've got 3 of them sitting over there. So I'll mount them all 3 the same way. I'll start them all the same way. I don't have to ever think about it. I just do it. I'll see people, they don't pay attention. They just mount them in here whichever way. And they'll get down to here on their freaking main or their crosses. And next thing you know, they got to go back, pull them all out because they've got them on the outside of the grommet instead of the inside. So anyway, mount your rackets the same every time. Pretty helpful. Again. A little knot. And that will probably be the last racket I pull off of that reel. I have enough for half. I'll measure it out here in a little bit. Okay, on this one I'll try, if I don't forget, I'll use the Diablo. I'll show you what I was talking about, that racket handle earlier. Again, both ends together. Pull it all together. Now another reason for doing a little backup, if your string does slip, that really makes your clamp dirty. So it makes it to where you really have to over tighten the clamp to hold it. So you don't want to do that. I think I forgot to use it on the first one. I know the camera's not set up where you can see it. I just have a tiny little corner back here in my living room that I work out of. My wife gets like 3 bedrooms and I get a corner. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Pull your string, you try to use the Diablo here, the racket handle will hit your hand. You got kind of cramped. So spin the racket around, then pull it. Makes it a lot easier. And again, that's one of those things, you do it enough time, it just kind of becomes a habit. You really don't have to think about it. I don't know if you've noticed yet, typically when I rotate my clamp, I do it on the 6th string. And that's about how many strings you have to do per side before the handle will quit hitting each other. Now like here, I push the clamp up, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with this, but don't just pull the string. Make sure you move the clamp over. If you just pull the string, it'll get stuck in this groove in the clamp. It'll mess your string up. And quit, again, quit timing yourself. And just string the racket. Worry less about how fast you are and more about how consistent you are. Like here, I don't have enough with the, well, yeah, I do. But that last pull on your knot, you don't have to worry about. The whole reason for using Diablo is it's kind of easier on your string. The clamp is a little easier on your string. But if it's that last one, you're going to cut all that off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Again, don't grab here, grab here. So again, you're going to cut all this off. So it doesn't matter if your string gets little teeth marks or something in it. Gets a little crushed. It just doesn't matter. And something I've learned recent, I've heard other people talk about, and I just, me being an older guy, kind of conservative, never thought I'd do it, but I went out and bought Crocs. And it's probably been the greatest stringing investment I've ever made. Them with the anti-fatigue mat that I have, my foot problems have almost got to where they disappeared. Oh, some I'll bring up. So some rackets you'll have shared grommet holes. So when I sit here and I talk about if I skip two, I start over. If I skip one, I start under. And if you have shared grommet holes, it's the same thing. If you have two shared grommet holes, start over. If you have one shared grommet hole, start under. And it's basically just how many strings you're skipping. If you're like the E zone, you're always gonna only have one string. I mean, you're only skipping 7, 8, or something like that, or 9, whatever it is. So anyway, it's something to think about. And pay attention, no matter what racket you're doing. If you're kind of new to it, look at your stringing patterns, your tie-offs and everything before you cut the strings out. I've seen people have, thought they were pretty confident at their stringing. And then get a head racket that had some shared holes in it. And then they tied their mains off, in the shared holes. And they didn't realize it until they got through with the crosses down here at the bottom. They didn't have anywhere to tie off. And your clamps, keep saying, it's kind of a feel thing to know they're too tight, too loose. When you start doing a lot of shape strings, and Slinko is kind of a good example, sometimes you'll clamp it and you'll catch the edges, so it'll feel like it's thicker. Sometimes you'll get it in the clamp and it'll be flat. It'll feel like it's thinner. See here, you can see I just use that one finger right here. So when you do about 15-20 rackets with a rough string, it really wears on that fingernail. Especially if you're trying to go fairly quick. And again, see, naturally this string's trying to go over here, but I don't want it to go over there. I want it to go over here so it doesn't pull against that support. I really don't have a time limit today, so I'm not like in a hurry. I can string faster, but again, don't time yourself. I think my best racket, I've done an on-court racket in 13 minutes. I think that's probably the best I've ever done. Whoop, so you're going to use Diablo. Try to use more fingernails here. That time I dropped the end of it because it got stuck in my shorts. So again, if you're not familiar with this racket, there's other rackets that are like it also. If you string it, if you start on the wrong side at the top, these grommets have grooves. I don't think you can see them here, but there's a groove here, but then there's no groove. If you start the wrong way, instead of the string laying in that groove and being flush, it'll go outside the grommet and your string sticks out from the racket. just same thing, just go back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And it doesn't matter how you weave your strings. You want a pusher. There's plenty of people that are pullers. People use their thumbs, index fingers, middle fingers. I typically, when I do it, I use these two fingers until they get tired. And I go to this finger. I don't use that one a whole lot. I use this one almost all the time. These I'll switch out. I've trained several people to string, and I like watching them later on to see if they keep doing it the same way, and most of them don't. They change. Some of them do it the same way, the ones that really paid attention. But most of them get out there, especially the kids, the younger kids, when they want to learn. I'll sit and teach them, but then they all get wrapped up in this whole, oh, how fast, how fast, how fast. And they start getting sloppy, and they develop a lot of bad habits after they've learned how, because they're trying to impress all their friends and just go fast instead of going correct. You can probably hear my dog in the back. I might even be able to see the dog in the background, one of them. Drinking water, he slobbers. I might do a video here in a little bit. I've got one that uses natural gut. I might do that one. I'm also going to try to add, for you guys that watch any of my videos, show you how I set up my little database, how I do my labels. And if that's something you want to do in the future, you can always do it. It's not hard. My database, all it is an Excel spreadsheet, several of them. I have one Excel spreadsheet just for all my local customers. I have one Excel spreadsheet just for the visiting universities that come in. And I have one Excel spreadsheet that's just for pro tournaments. So they're all a little different. I know there's a lot of, and I'm not going to say a lot, there's a few websites that you can go to online. And they do a good job. One of them used to be free, and I used to use it all the time, then they started charging money. So I quit using it. There's another one out there now, I can't remember the name of it, but it's free. And again, they do good. But I would say in the long run, 90% of the information that they try to get you to enter and everything, you don't need. If you're just a home stringer, I do a few tournaments on the side, you really just don't need to record a lot of this stuff for people. You don't need their swing weights and their racket dimensions and dynamic tensions, and you don't need all that stuff. All you need to know is what string and what tension, for the most part. Yeah, I forgot to use my Diablo. Now I'm talking. I'll show you again. I've used my little Excel database. I've used it for several years. Don't really have any problems with them. All you gotta do is make, I have an invoice on it. I have a sheet that captures all of my data, I guess. Has all my customers, addresses, phone numbers, rackets, strings, all my prices, has everything. And then I have one sheet per person that I track each individual person on. And the sheet that has all the data on it, I have drop downs everywhere so that I can drop it down and pull all that information. And then my labels are all made to where they are link up to those Excel databases. And they're pretty easy to set up. Took a little practice, but they're pretty easy to set up. I don't know, I'm holding this, it's just so the string bit doesn't twist on me. I'm not actually holding any pressure on that. I'm not perfect with every strike here, nope. And you look and say, look, that one just went a little too far. That all look good. And there you go. That's another one. So now, I'll turn this off, and when I get to the one with natural gut, I might start back up and show you some more stuff later.